On July 26th, 2017, YouTube legend Dan Olson, hallowed be his name, released a video entitled The Stanley Parable, Dark Souls, and Intended Play. In the video, Dan talks about how these games and others have elements of intentional disobedience. Unlike in a movie where the viewer is a passive agent unable to do much of anything but sit there and consume the film, the player can ignore commands in a video game, can attempt to do things that the game explicitly tells them not to do. Dan claims that if there's crafted content on the other side of your misbehavior, then it's not actually misbehavior. That what a game intends for you to do includes not only the things the fiction of the game tells you to do, but also the broader things that the game permits you to do. And that the only truly accurate sign that the authors don't want you doing something is that nothing happens at all. I'm not sure I agree with Dan, and to talk about why, I'm going to focus on a game that breaks this mold of intended play.
The genocide route in Undertale.
I'm disagreeing with Dan Olson, certified worth decider. What am I doing with my life? Really though, I find it super interesting that he brings Undertale up. As the most annoying person in my friend group, I love Undertale, and still tell my uninitiated friends to play it 7.5 years after its release. Alex, go play the past history of Undertale right now. I don't care how much you'd hate Papyrus, so help me God! At the end of the video, Dan asks his audience, what's your favorite moment in a game where it tells you not to do something that it ultimately intends for you to do, and why is it the genocide route in Undertale? And does Toby want us to play the game that way? Does he intend for it? Is that intention communicated to us purely by Toby programming the game to respond to our disobedience? For those who don't know, like my friend Alex, there are 3 ways to play Undertale. The pacifist route, where you don't kill a single monster in the game and wind up with the best possible ending. The neutral route, where you kill some, but not all monsters, leading to various relatively unsatisfying endings. And the genocide route, where you murder every living being in the game, leading to some special backstory and bosses that are only encountered when the game is played this way. Let's start with the neutral route and how it handles intended play. The neutral route fucking sucks, honestly. You get to experience most of what happens in the pacifist route, but the stuff you get locked out of is honestly the reason to play Undertale in the first place. You cruise along and get one of almost 80 slightly different endings without the final chapter of the story. If someone played through Undertale and didn't like their neutral ending, I totally get it. I get it because those endings are meant to be unsatisfying. Now, is that a good choice by Toby if you want the highest number of people to like your game? No, of course not. But is it a good choice if you really want to push one specific way to play the game? Absolutely. So technically, do almost 80 different neutral endings exist? Are they all different content? Slightly, yeah, sure. But I think calling them all intended ways to experience the game is a stretch. The genocide route is a little different. As I said earlier, there's a bunch more stuff to do in that route. There's multiple new bosses, as well as way more dialogue and story that you don't get anywhere else. Well, that's it then, right? You might be asking. There's content in the genocide route, plot and gameplay that you can't get anywhere else. It's a special way to play, and you get special content in return. It's intended. This is true to an extent, but I think there's an interesting question here that's taken as unambiguously true in Dan's video. If something is created and put into a game, does that necessarily mean that it's meant to be seen? Sure, there's an end state to it. You can complete the run and experience that storyline, but in doing so, the game becomes bad, boring, grindy, lifeless. Walking around in circles, spending hours one-hitting monsters while you know there are other, more entertaining and gratifying options, just to get some new bosses and backstory is communication in itself. To me, that grindy, boring lifelessness is a much louder and clearer indication that this is not the direction Toby wants the player to go, even if there is some content on the other side of that grind. There's a reason the experience is shitty, and the reason is that there's better options. Options Toby would rather you do. He could have made it so that there was only one random encounter per area. Could have sped up the process. But he made it a slog for a reason. And that reason was to try and get people to give up. Speaking of giving up, if a game tells you to stop playing, And you do, is that intended play as well? In Undertale's case, that's another valid ending to the game. As It's the Duran mentions on Reddit, yes, I am quoting a 5-year-old Reddit comment. This is called research. This is a serious research essay. Having to see something just because it's there is portrayed as the wrong thing to do, while not playing the game anymore is considered a viable choice. Is agreeing with the game and not finishing it really that different from getting an early good ending? I'd consider abandoning the genocide run a part of the intended play. This is a great point. Throughout the game, monsters encourage you to stop the route. They beg, they plead. Papyrus even says they still believe in you, even after you've cut their head off. Flowey makes some meta commentary on the people who don't have the stomach to finish a genocide route, saying, "It all started because I was curious. Curious what would happen if I killed them. I don't like this, I told myself. I'm just doing this because I have to know what happens. At least we're better than those sickos that just stand around and watch it happen." I bet someone's watching right now. Alright, side note. Flowey totally got me with this, and with his little post-tutorial scene, the meta in this game blew my mind, and is definitely a factor in why it's one of my favorite games ever. I love this shit. Deciding to drop the game and never play it again while on the genocide route is an ending that is accounted for, a disaster averted. The survivors survive. Is this intended play, even though it involves not playing the game again? I think so. When there's 3 games a way can end, and 2 kinda suck. When there's 3 ways a game can end, and 2 kinda suck, I think there's a reason for that. Undertale's infamous for having a pretty vociferous and potentially toxic fan base. One that's harassed streamers who played the wrong way, calling their real-life morals into question. This is, of course, ridiculous, and not at all what I'm talking about. It's been the better part of a decade since release, so I hope some of that fervor and weird behavior has calmed down. But to make myself clear, there's nothing morally wrong with playing Undertale any way you damn well please. But when the gameplay and the story are all pushing you to play the game one way, and you decide to play it a different way, I think you played Undertale wrong. And this isn't to sound holier than thou. I watched the video of the genocide route. I'm one of the sickos who watched. I'm one of the people who played it wrong. I'm not a bad person for playing Undertale wrong, but I feel kind of like Flowey got me a little bit, you know? I walked right into his glorious meta-ass trap. I was consuming every little Toby Fox morsel I could get because I love this game. I have to know what's behind the curtain. And I thought I could get away with it because I wasn't the person with the controller in their hand. But Toby accounted for that and got me anyway. And instead of the moral issue that some of the jerks out there make it out to be, I think this moment was somewhere between a really good meta joke and a challenge to think about games and about intended play differently. This is what Dan Olson gets wrong about Undertale and intended play. And while I'm not a certified worth decider, I hope I've convinced you that his take is worth further discussion.